Welcome back. So again, you just saw two attorneys who represent the complaining witnesses or victims in this case talk about what they saw in the court. Now, we're going to wait for just a few moments. We're going to have Jesse Weber giving us updates. But I want to go back again to Donna Rotuno's closing arguments. She took no prisoners, whether it was the Molyneux witnesses, the complaining witnesses, the prosecutions, or even Gloria Allred herself. She came for everyone. Our very own Jesse Weber wrote this transcript of how Gloria Allred said, and I want to make sure I get this correct, that Gloria was hired and she's been there all day, every day, sorry. She hasn't been paid. She's not sitting here for her health. She's not sitting here for fun because she knows there's a pot of gold at the end of the criminal trial. I mean, there is some back and forth as to how Donna is presenting this case, as to whether it's positive or negative. But Anna, talk about this take no prisoner attitude from this defense attorney who's basically coming for anyone and everyone in defense of her client.
I thought it was a fantastic closing argument. As I said earlier, I think a lot for the jury to chew on. I'm sure the prosecution is very glad that they have all night to prepare their response. What's been interesting in this case has been the amount of sort of communication, direct communication almost, between defense on and off the record and the civil attorneys for these alleged victims here. The direct call out for Gloria and then Gloria's press conference, referring back to the defense arguments. And I found that a little objectionable because she's making an argument that the prosecution won't be allowed to make tomorrow. The prosecution won't be allowed to talk at all about the fact that Harvey Weinstein didn't take the stand. So it's almost like she's doing a little cleanup hitting for the prosecution. Yeah,
we'll see how that plays out for her when the prosecutor starts to close out. Jesse Weber, we are joined by him via Skype. He's right outside 100 Center Street. Jesse, good to see you again.
Hey, Brian, how you doing? What a day we've seen, and you were there for a little bit of it.
Yeah, but you got to see the tail end. I saw some of the highlights. I read over your transcripts. It seemed exhilarating. Tell us what I missed. Tell us what we saw from the defense's closing.
Well, where we picked up after lunch, Donna Rotuno finished up her analysis of Jessica Mann. She hit upon one point that I really want to mention. She said, if the prosecution's case was so strong, how come we didn't hear from one law enforcement officer, one investigator? There's no DNA, there's no forensic. It just shows how weak their case is. And she kept reiterating what reasonable doubt is. This is doubt, this is doubt, this is doubt. She then moved into Annabella Shore and said, let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that she may not matter. You first have to decide whether or not Harvey Weinstein sexually assaulted Jessica Mann or Miriam Haley. Then you could decide Annabella Shore. If you don't think he did anything to them, then you can move on to her. But you're talking about something from 27 years ago, and it's almost impossible to prove a negative. She emphasized how Annabella Shore is a tough woman from Brooklyn. She's not the type of person to be a victim. And she highlighted the fact that during Annabella Shore's testimony, she actually got up and thought two people were taking photos of her in the courtroom and said, is that the same person that's going to be victimized? And then she really hit on holes in her story. The most notable, of course, is how on earth did Harvey Weinstein make it up to her apartment building without being noticed, detected by doorman? There was no indication that he knew what apartment number she was. And of course, we learned earlier from the prosecution that he had her contact information on file with the Weinstein Company. But as Donna Rotuno said, it's not like he had a smartphone and that information on him. What the big part about with Annabella Shore is that Donna Rotuno says that she changed her memories to become more relevant. She got a great agent. She became the darling of the movement. After that, Donna Rotuno moved into these Molyneux witnesses who she claimed these are witnesses that don't really matter. She said that Dawn Dunning, she was always clear about and always talking about how Harvey Weinstein propositioned her into a threesome. That was her story, that was her story, that was her story, until at a later point, it wasn't until 2019, she comes forward with this new story that Harvey Weinstein sexually assaulted her. Then they moved on, and then Donna Rotuno moved on to Tara Leigh Wolfe, who she says, this is a witness who doesn't remember anything and had to have a expert memory recovery doctor to help her out. We then heard from Lauren, we also heard about Lauren Young, who Donna Rotuno says that her story was contradicted numerous times by Claudia Salinas, that she kept changing her story, and that she was fed information by law enforcement and the state. Donna Rotuno also wanted to make a note of how strong the defense's witnesses are, including Dr. Loftus, and talking about how memory memories can be distorted over time. They even defended Paul Felcher, a controversial witness for the defense, where she ultimately said that this is a man who's torn between two friends. He's friends with Harvey Weinstein, he's friends with Annabella Shora, and he was honest about how he felt. And just because he said that Harvey Weinstein is a sex addict doesn't mean that Harvey Weinstein is a rapist. Now, she was she provided a closing that was about 4.5 hours long. As you said, Brian, she didn't leave anybody out, and she told this jury, she said to this jury, you came in here that you were going to view the facts objectively, and the evidence supports the fact that Harvey Weinstein should be found not guilty. It was an impressive closing argument from Donna Rotunno.
So Donna Rotunno has ended her closing arguments, and we're presuming that the prosecution will begin tomorrow. Is that correct?
That's right. One of the interesting things that Donna Rotunno did is she kept anticipating what Prosecutor Aluzzi would do tomorrow. She said that she probably will get emotional. She'll probably get angry. Don't let that distract you. She's probably going to talk about this witness. She's probably going to hit upon this point. And you know that that's a good strategy to do, to kind of anticipate what the other side is going to argue so that the jury is not hit off surprise or anything like that. But I'm curious to see if Prosecutor Aluzzi will spend the entire day on her closing, as we saw the defense do today.
I would guess that they probably wouldn't. I actually thought that Donna Rotunno might have extended into tomorrow morning because, and I know there were some arguments about this, Jesse, and please illuminate us to this. The defense didn't want to give the prosecution all night to prepare their cross-examination after they were done, because it does seem like a bit of an advantage for the prosecution. Do you think that might help their case, having the entire summation before them and then a night to prepare?
Well, my understanding was they were always given 1 day. I don't think that they wanted to extend it to 2 days. And maybe, yeah, it was to put the time crunch on the prosecution, or maybe better yet, it was just to lay out their case. They had a full day to lay out a complicated case. And it should be noted, in my perspective, there were slides. Remember, Donna Rotunno was using a PowerPoint slide to go through her different points. She skipped over some slides. She had the jury just read some slides. She didn't elaborate on everything. I think for a time purpose, she was looking at the clock. She didn't want to extend it further than she had to, but you might very well be right. Let's put the prosecution in a crunch, because now they have to review this 4 hours of a closing and think about their counterpunches.
Did you see any holes that might have been left by Donna Rotunno? Did she avoid some issues that are maybe weak for her? Did she skip over things that you think were big points in the cross-examination or direct that you heard in previous days? Or do you think this was just a rock-solid, no holes in this boat type of closing arguments?
Well, I tell you, I'm going to couple upon something that we just heard from Douglas Wigdor. You are asking the prosecution, I'm wondering if they're going to say this tomorrow, that the defense is asking you to not believe 6 women. So they're saying that these 6 women chose to lie on the stand, or these 6 women, their memory is incorrect, or they have a financial incentive to testify and go against Harvey Weinstein. That might be a lot to ask. And the big part that they will probably say is, just because, let's say, Jessica Mann had a consensual relationship with Harvey Weinstein doesn't mean that it didn't start from a rape. And I think that's a key point. We're not talking about whether Harvey Weinstein raped Jessica Mann over the course of several months, but what happened in March of 2013 in that DoubleTree. And let's not forget, when we talk about Annabella Shore, this jury agreed that they could convict someone purely based on witness testimony, purely based on accuser's account. That's something I think the prosecution is going to stress upon. There are going to be points I imagine Aluzzi hits upon with Rotunno's comments, probably directed towards her, probably directed towards the Me Too movement. There were a lot of objections. Most of them were overruled. So she is going to hit upon those points. Remember, both sides look at the evidence and frame it in their own way.
Now, Jesse, when I was there for just a brief hour or so, I focused on some of the jurors. They seemed very attentive. At times, I saw a few bobbing their head and sometimes in agreement, giving eye contact. They seem to be very engaged in this very long trial. What did you make of the jury during Donna Rotunno's summation?
I agree, Brian. I think this is the moment that they were waiting for, and I'll tell you why. This is a complicated case. They're going to be instructed on what they can consider and not consider. This is the moment for both sides to wrap up all the evidence. And sometimes in a trial as complicated as this, you might be looking at a piece of testimony, a piece of evidence, and not understanding how that fits into the entire picture or why it matters. Here, that's why they were listening very attentively. And I listened to Donna Rotunno. I think she hit upon every piece that they wanted to hit upon. And so this is their moment to really take notes, really hear what the arguments are, understand what the argument is from the defense, be prepared for the prosecution. I agree with you. They looked very attentive. I didn't see any yawning. I didn't see them closing their eyes. I will say there was a guy that was sitting in front of me who fell asleep, was actually snoring. Glad it was a guy in front of me and not the jury. They were right there listening to Donna Rotunno, and she was right in front of them. So it would be hard for them to not pay attention. And they were also reading a lot from the PowerPoint, the slides, reading very carefully about what each email was or piece of testimony. They appeared to be engaged. They appeared to be ready.
Now, Jesse, last question. We're talking about the jurors, we're talking about Donna Rotunno, but the man of the hour, the one that everyone is probably looking at, would be Harvey Weinstein. Can you see any remarks or any gestures that he's making as this summation is going on?
Yes, absolutely. He was actually asked, right before I came out here, he was asked as he was leaving the courtroom, what'd you think of Donna Rotunno's summation? He said he loved it, and he called it the Queen's Speech. Let's not forget, he's a producer of The King's Speech, if I recall correctly. Those were the terminology he used. He appeared to be very happy, smiling. It appeared to be an effective, strong closing argument that he approves of.
All right, so we've got the Harvey Weinstein stamp of approval. Jesse Weber, thank you very much for all you've done so far, and we'll continue with more after this.